can no longer tell if it's morning or night. Time has loosened its grip on me. I'm writing this because it's all I can do. Writing keeps the edges from bleeding too fast. If you're hearing this, it means I managed to get it out somehow. If you're reading it, then you still live in a place where the sky moves and shadows follow rules. Lucky you. My name is Alex Novak. I was, maybe still am, a photographer. I've always had a thing for decay. Urban ruins, crumbling cathedrals, asylums with shattered glass windows and peeling wallpaper. Beauty in entropy. There's something raw in forgotten places, something honest. They never pretend. They just exist, slowly collapsing under the weight of time. I used to post my work online under the handle Nocturne Decay. Thousands followed me, fascinated by the bleak beauty I found in desolation. Some places whispered history. Others screamed. But I never expected one would swallow me. It started a month ago, or a week, or maybe yesterday. I've stopped counting. I was browsing a Romanian folklore forum, looking for new inspiration. It was a quiet evening rain tapping against the windows of my apartment in Bucharest. The forum was a mess of tailies, cursed wells, shadow men, forest spirits. Most were easily dismissible, but one post stopped me cold. The user was named Babalunga. Their only message: don't go during the festival. They don't take kindly to strangers. It was about a place I'd never heard of. Vâltoare. No images, no coordinates, just the name. The word struck me like a tuning fork. I looked it up. Nothing. Not on Google Maps, not in any history books. But the word itself lingered. It meant something like whirlpool, maelstrom. A village named after a force that pulls things down and never lets them go. I couldn't resist. The next morning, I packed my van. Canon DSLR, analog Leica, my drone, lenses, power banks. Camping gear, food for a few days, thermal wear. I mapped out a region northeast of Brasov, following a trail of local legends, villages abandoned after communist seizures, areas considered cursed, where people vanished. With no clear destination, I aimed for the largest blank spot I could find on the satellite map. That empty swath of forest spoke to me. The road grew worse by the hour. Cracked asphalt gave way to gravel. Gravel gave way to mud. Eventually, I had to leave the van near an old shepherd's outpost. From there, I hiked. 6 hours into the wild, no phone signal, only the hiss of wind through pine. With every step into the trees, I felt as if something were being peeled away from me. Not just the trappings of civilization, but memory, orientation. Even gravity seemed fickle. At one point, I swear the trees tilted backwards, their trunks bowing not toward the sun, but toward some silent pull beneath the earth. By late afternoon, the forest changed. Sound drained away. Not just quiet, absent. I stopped and held my breath. No birds, no insects. Even the leaves seemed afraid to rustle. The air tasted different, like iron and cold smoke. Every instinct screamed at me to turn back, but the silence was like a web. I had already stepped too far in. I saw it, Vâltoare, a small settlement nestled in a basin of stone and mist. Houses slouched like old men, crooked and damp. Roofs furred with moss, shutters hanging on rusted hinges. A crude path wound through them, leading to a wooden church. Its steeple leaned at a threatening angle, the bell inside oxidized green, but intact. The village felt wrong, as if it wasn't abandoned, just paused. Then the people emerged, slowly, from doorways, shadows, faces worn like weathered stone. They watched me, not with curiosity or caution, with certainty, as if I was always going to come, as if they had waited. No one smiled, no one spoke. Then one man stepped forward, tall, wiry, wrapped in layers of cloth. He introduced himself as Ionel. His eyes were pale, almost colorless. "The mountain holds those it chooses," he said. "You may stay the night, but heed me. If the wind calls your name, do not answer. And if you hear the bell, do not look up." Ionel's house was more a relic than a home. Everything smelled of mildew and wax. Dust coated every surface, but there was no cobweb, as if the spiders refused to stay. The walls groaned with age, as if even the wood remembered things it refused to say aloud. Dinner was served in silence, a thick broth, bitter and stringy. I ate without comment. The fire popped and shadows danced. I noticed something off about the paintings on the wall. Simple portraits, but each one had the eyes scratched out. Generations of villagers, presumably, their features lovingly preserved except for the gaze. I asked about them. Ionel didn't look up. Eyes lie. That night I barely slept. Wind howled around the cabin. At 2:08 a.m. the bell rang. Once, dull, low, as if struck underwater. I looked out the window. The villagers were outside, standing in concentric circles around the church. Each held a candle. They swayed, not to music, but to silence. Faces turned upward. I raised my camera. The lens showed nothing. When I looked again, they were gone. The ground beneath me seemed to shift, even though I did not move. My heart pounded. Every beat echoed in my skull. I stared at the window frame, willing the image of the villagers, those pale, silent figures, to reappear. But the square lay empty, bathed in a sickly moonlight that seemed to emanate from nowhere. A thin mist curled around the church's base, obscuring the steps and pooling like liquid silver. I exhaled slowly, trying to steady my racing thoughts. Something had changed in me since setting foot here. The air felt heavier, as though laden with memories not my own. I felt cold, though the cabin's hearth still glowed faintly. I wrapped my jacket tighter around my shoulders and settled back onto the creaking bed. But sleep remained elusive. Every rustle of wind felt amplified, as if the forest itself were whispering secrets I couldn't decode. Morning, or what I took to be morning, came without clarity. The light was diffuse, filtered through a low ceiling of gray clouds. I stepped outside the cabin and paused, scanning the village. It should have been deserted, but now it felt inhabited in my mind. Each house seemed to watch me, shutters like half-closed eyelids. The silence persisted, oppressive, expectant. I forced myself to begin exploring. Camera in hand, I moved methodically, pretending the act of photographing would anchor me to reality. I crouched by a collapsed well at the village edge. The stones were slick with moss, and the air inside the shaft was cold, smelling of damp earth. I dropped a pebble. It fell for longer than physics allowed, disappearing into a blackness that seemed bottomless. Silence swallowed the sound. On a crooked fence post nearby, I found symbols carved by someone's careful hand. Spirals, intersecting lines, shapes reminiscent of eyes. The carvings were weathered, but their intent endured. Warnings, prayers, or incantations. I could not tell. I ran my fingers over the grooves, feeling a faint vibration, as if the wood retained a pulse of its own. Moving deeper into the settlement, I encountered doors that should not have existed. A small cottage, its door sealed by heavy planks, bore scratches around its edges, as if something inside had fought to escape or keep others out. I pried at the wood, but it did not yield. The nails were too old, rusted into permanence. Yet I sensed movement behind it, a shifting, like cloth dragged over skin. I returned to Ionel's house, hopping to press him for more information. He sat by the hearth, eyes unfocused, stroking a threadbare shawl. When he noticed me, his gaze sharpened briefly, then dulled again. You wander where tether is thin. Why linger here? He asked. I raised my camera. I'm searching for truth, or evidence, anything to explain what's happening. His lips twitched into a semblance of a smile that did not reach his eyes. Truth here is a broken mirror, he said. You will see shards of yourself you do not know. I swallowed. What is this place? Why does time behave like this? Ionel nodded slowly. Vâltoare is older than memory. It was born when people sang for salvation, but found only echoes. It devours seconds, folding them back into itself. He paused, as if listening for something beyond my hearing. Once, we tried to leave, but the mountain claimed our names. Now, we wait the festival. And the bell. Festival, I asked. When? He let out a dry breath. When the veil is thinnest, when wind turns still, and the moon bleeds silver light. I thought of Elena's diary. If the moon turns twice, but could not recall if her warning described days or nights. My memory had begun to blur. I remembered reading the entry, but the details swirled like ink in water. That afternoon, I searched the perimeter beyond the village. The forest felt different here, denser, as if grown around some core. Every tree seemed identical, their bark mottled with dark patterns that resembled faces in agony. I tried leaving markers, stacking stones, tying ribbons around branches, but each time I circled back, my markers were missing, or in different places. One ribbon I tied to a low branch reappeared days later, frayed and stained with something dark. At night, the bell tolled again. This time, twice, echoing strangely, as if originating from 2 points at once. My mind quivered. Had I slept or lingered awake? The sky outside the cabin was obscured, yet faint light pulsed through the clouds in a cadence matching the tolls. I felt drawn toward the church square. I fought it, but my legs moved before my will. When I arrived, the villagers had formed a ring once more. Their faces were expressionless, eyes glinting by candlelight. The air was thick with incense smoke and something else, decay mixed with faint, metallic tang. I raised my camera automatically, but again, the lens displayed emptiness. The villagers seemed to recede into the shadows, yet in my peripheral vision, they flickered like dying embers. I sensed their focus on me, as if I were the final piece in some eldritch rite. A hush fell, broken only by the slow creak of the church door swinging inward. I felt the vibration in the air long before I heard it. A low hum, like a collective breath held for centuries. The bell's mouth opened, but I did not hear a strike. Instead, I felt a vibration through the ground, as though the village itself resonated with a secret frequency. I retreated, stumbling back into the trees, pursued by a chorus of silent voices calling my name in half-formed whispers. The words felt like claws scraping my mind. Alex, Alex, come home. I fled to the hunter's cabin above the village, barricading the door with planks and stacking furniture behind it. My camera lay on the floor, lens cracked from the fall. I did not sleep. I sat by the window, watching the tree line, heart hammering. In the distance, I saw a figure emerge, myself, indistinct in moonlight, stepping forward with slow deliberation. It raised a hand in greeting. I slammed the window shut, pressing my palm against the cold glass. I began to question my own senses. In daylight, the cabin seemed safe, but shadows gathered in corners, shifting when I looked away. Objects moved slightly between visits. A cup found on the table one morning lay, overturned the next. My journal entries felt foreign when I reread them, as if written by someone else. Hunger and thirst lost meaning. I subsisted on rations I could not recall storing. The water jug refilled itself each morning. I tried to photograph the phenomenon. The camera's memory card corrupted itself. Images unreadable. When I reviewed them on my laptop, files were empty or contained static. I deleted and reformatted the card, but each dawn it filled again with incomprehensible noise. One evening, I decided to try communicating with Elena's presence. I returned to the shed where her diary had been found. The structure was more decayed now. Roof beams had collapsed further, and the soil beneath was soft and sinking. I searched for any remaining pages or clues. Among broken floorboards, I found a faded sketch, a circular pattern resembling a labyrinth, concentric rings intersected by jagged lines. In the center was a crude depiction of the bell, mouth agape, surrounded by figures with hollow eyes. I traced the pattern in dirt with my finger, feeling a subtle thrum beneath. A voice, hers, mine, whispered, "Turn before the moon bleeds twice." I recoiled, dust falling around me like ash. I stumbled back to the cabin, clutching the sketch. The sky outside was alive with shifting shapes. I knew then that the festival approached, a convergence where time and reality bled together. If Elena had written of it in 1871, it must recur in cycles I could neither measure nor escape. As days blurred, I experienced moments of clarity. Flashes when the world snapped into focus, my name, my face, the date stamped on a half-eaten can in the cabin. June 19, 2025. But the next instant, those anchors dissolved. I forgot what city I came from. I forgot who Babalunga was. I only knew the pull toward Vâltoare, the bell's lure, and the fear that this place would claim me entirely. In those fleeting lucidity intervals, I attempted one final plan: to record everything. I positioned cameras around the cabin's exterior, hopping to capture the other me if she came. I set audio recorders for ambient sound. I scribbled frantic notes, observations about wind patterns, sequences of tolls, patterns in the villagers' appearances. The next night, the recordings awoke me. The bell tolled not in the village, but around the cabin a chorus of bells, echoing from unseen steeples in every direction. My cameras clicked to life, but their lights flickered and died. The recorders emitted a high-pitched whine, then silence. I felt a presence behind me and turned. There I was, my doppelgänger, stepping into the cabin. My heart seized. My reflection in a shattered mirror on the wall showed two versions of me, one terrified, one calm, serene. The calm one spoke, voice layered like many voices. You sought decay, but you found eternity. You chased the image, but you became the image. My double tilted its head. The bell remembers you. The village remembers you. It chooses you. I backed away, tripping over debris. I grabbed a broken plank and swung, but my double did not flinch. Instead, it smiled, a slow curl of lips that spoke of silent knowledge. It is not I who is here, it whispered. It is the echo of what you offered and what you became. The cabin walls groaned. The floor beneath quaked. The scene dissolved into darkness, punctuated by the bell's toll. I covered my ears, but the sound reverberated inside my skull. Memories poured out of me. Childhood faces, laughter, names I no longer recognized. Each toll severed another thread of identity. When I awoke, I was alone. The cabin lay in ruins, splintered wood illuminated by weak dawn. The sketch of the labyrinth lay at my feet, scrawled now onto the floorboards as if carved by unseen hands. I felt hollow, like a shell washed ashore. Yet something remained, the dread of looking away, the compulsion to document, to warn. I sit now at this makeshift desk, a fallen beam propped on stones, writing what remains of my story. I do not know how many entries this will take. I do not know if the wind will carry these words to anyone. I write because forgetting is worse than dying here. Because if I stop, I will vanish. I have accepted that escape may be impossible, but I will try again and again. Each attempt reveals deeper layers of the village's grip, paths that loop into nightmares, voices that mimic lost friends, visions of festivals long ended, yet still unfolding. I record them all, even as I forget recording them. I photograph shadows and hear them whisper back. I do not know if I am the first outsider to arrive here, likely not. But I may be the last to leave, or the last to remain. And if you ever come across these pages, know this: Vâltoare is patient. It waits for the curious, the lonely, the seekers of truth. It offers a reflection and then devours you. Time here is not a river, but a labyrinth, looping endlessly. So heed these words. If the wind calls your name, do not answer. If the bell beckons, do not look up. If you feel memory slipping like sand through fingers, write anyway. Anchor yourself in words even as the world unravels, and pray that these words find solid ground beyond the mist. I will continue writing until the tether breaks, or until I no longer know who I am.